quickly, how do you discriminate between seeking or opening to new inspiration or allowing something new and genuine to come into one's practice or life versus distracting oneself as a kind of entertainment or trip? Because I do find sometimes people meditate for years and they never come and talk to me about it, and actually they're not finding any inspiration in it. It's kind of dead, but they're not coming to talk to me about it because they think, oh, I shouldn't be wanting it to be different than it is. So it's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? And I say to people, it's really important that it does feel alive, and that you do feel an inspiration from it. And then other people, they don't come and talk to me about their meditation because they are able to endlessly entertain themselves. And find new ways to entertain themselves constantly. It's almost like something comes up in the meditation that's happened during the day, and they can spend the whole meditation playing around with it and working it out, and could be something about they're fantasizing into the future, or they're thinking about this and that. And they don't mind doing that, they're quite happy doing that. But then after their hour, I think, oh, that's an meditation done. Clock up the hours. It's a break. Gives me a chance to think about some things that I'm thinking to need to think about. Well, people can do that for years and years, actually. So there should be some sense of aliveness and significance, some sort of sense of pennies dropping. I don't know what else you can do except come and talk to somebody about that. I think when it's fantasy or when it's entertainment, even if it's very short term, even if it's just into the next moment, you're always projecting forward. Because the big fear, when you're bored, your fear of boredom is a fear of your own capacity to make things solid. So when you're sitting in meditation and you think to yourself, I've got an hour to sit here, it's like terrifying. Oh my God, an hour. I've got to sit here for an hour, and you solidify it, and you solidify the idea of the future. And you think there's me and this future looming for the whole hour. So I've got to sit here, not do anything else. Or, maybe if we extended a bit, a whole 10 hours, or a whole week, 10 hours a day, so it becomes tremendously heavy as an idea. And then that, almost a terror of that, of your own capacity to solidify your own future and your own existence. Whereas if you didn't make the future so solid, and you just recognise that solidity that you've created is a thought, it could all lighten up, couldn't it? Because it's never going to be any different. If you can take that thought of solidness as a thought, it then becomes inseparable from you, doesn't it? It's kind of like the spaciousness of the moment. It's always going to be like that. So you don't need to be afraid of that boredom, really, because it's only a thought. But instead of doing that, we tend to think, oh gosh, another hour. And, oh yes, I wanted to think about that. So that I'll just think about that. But just that little bit, and then I'll drop it. And then I'll do this, and then I'll do that. and then I'll handle it like this, and then I'll handle it like that. So you're just a little bit ahead of yourself all the time. So that the actual instruction for meeting your own mind or experience is to get as near as you can to not taking it into the future. Get it as near as you can to, which becomes very interesting, because of course you've framed yourself into this idea of time and trying to capture the present moment, and as I was saying about insight arising, by letting yourself work within that framework of time and push it to the moment where you're actually in the moment, a real insight might sort of arise of that's the wrong framework. That actually you can drop that framework, then you never need to be afraid of boredom again. But if you don't allow yourself to really reach that point, you're always going a little bit ahead of yourself. Sometimes you go ahead of yourself by going back. So you can produce entertainment for the moment by going forward into the past. Because you're producing a version of the past it can't be the past, can it? Because the past's gone. So you've leapt onto something almost in the future, which is the past. There's actually busy, isn't it? And in a funny way, you see, when it's alive, it is very entertaining, in a different sense. It is very alive. You don't need any other entertainment. You don't need to kind of distract yourself. You are actually very interesting all the time. All of you. All of us. There's not a moment when we're not interesting. And that's what Trungpa Rinpoche is trying to get us to wake up to. That, we don't need to kind of set ourselves up with anything. We can just drop more and more of our preconceived ideas, and the adhisthana of that something will reveal itself. And this is what's meant by the meditation is about producing a gap. Because what's happened is that we've created this whole wonderful creation of ourselves. And then we're busy maintaining it all the time, because actually it's totally unreal. So the only way you can maintain it is to keep working on it. Because if you stop working on it, it collapses. And that can be a very weird experience. Because you sort of imagine as it collapses, you'll see it collapse. Because you won't be there. As Vigzig Shikpa says, it's horrific enough to realise you don't exist, but it's even more horrific to realise you never did. And not only do you not exist, but also nothing else did either. It all collapses. No wonder we don't realise that. Because if you were to realise that, everything would turn upside down and inside out, wouldn't it? go back to what I was saying this morning about understanding, getting a sense of that has to be right. I think that comes it can come quite quickly, a sense that that has to be right. But then we still think completely the other way round. So then it's a bit like those things, those patterns where you look at them one way and then you look at them another way and they're completely different. And then you're trying to work out what did I do to see it that way and what did I do to see it that way? It's quite subtle, isn't it? In the same way, you have to keep working with, well, most of the time I'm seeing it this way, but I'm more and more convinced it's actually the opposite way. You know, this all seems to be real in the way I always thought it was real, but I'm becoming more and more convinced actually it never was like that. But I'm still not there. So that's when it's like just an understanding, and then increasingly you might get little flashes and moments of that becoming really true. You really recognise it's true, and that has a completely different feel to it. So then you think, oh wow, you know, I could write poems about it now. Yeah, I could go and teach it now. And you probably could do it quite well. But that's still a long way from the realisation.